talked about speakers at the Republican National Convention last night with Sheriff David Clarke, the Milwaukee County Sheriff. He's a Democrat, but he supports Donald Trump. He is a black man who is staunchly against the Black Lives Matter movement. I want to share with you more of what he said last night at the RNC.
I often tell residents of Milwaukee and the city and towns that I visit that safety is a shared endeavor. It starts with the willing acceptance of people to play by society's rules. A code, if you will, where we collectively agree upon that ensures stability, fairness, and respect. It is built on a foundation of trust in each other and in the people who administer and enforce society's rules, which at its foundation is the rule of law. So many of the actions of the Occupy movement and Black Lives Matter transcends peaceful protest and violates the code of conduct we rely on. I call it anarchy.
CNN law enforcement analyst Matthew Horace with us, as well as retired LAPD Police Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey. Thank you both so much for being with us. Cheryl, he called it anarchy, threw out words like stability, trust, respect. What was your initial gut reaction to everything that he said?
Well, let me say this. Black people are not monolithic, nor are black police officers. And so, when I listen to Sheriff Clarke speak, I have to put it in historical context, because certainly we understand that there were, black people in slavery who sold black people. There were overseers and or officers who treated black people very poorly. And so I understand where he's coming from, and I almost pity him, right? And so I don't blame Black Lives Matter for what's going on, and I don't understand the humanity of any person who revels in the loss of life. I don't condone violence against police, and I don't condone violence by the police.
Okay, why do you pity him? Just so we can understand.
Well, because listen, historically, some black people have forgotten where they come from. And so, I think perhaps Sheriff David Clarke forgets that he enjoys the benefits of affirmative action and other measures that were put into place to put him into that position. And so he probably thinks because he took a test and passed or was elected that there wasn't someone of conscience and color who created that opportunity for him to be in that position. And so I'm not angry with him about it, but let's be real. The root cause of what's going on, in my belief right now, with people retaliating against police officers is because police departments on a national level refuse to admit that they play a role in this. And people want accountability. They're fed up.
Matthew, what's your reaction?
Well, I think listening to his speech, number one, I think, having been a 30-year veteran law enforcement, blue lives have always mattered to us, and we have a need to tell ourselves that. It's only accepting the fact that there's a small percentage of society that would enact violence on us. The other thing I can't help but to understand is that we can no more align the Black Lives Matter movement to people's individual violent streaks as we would or as we could align the killing of African American or minority people in the streets to the KKK if it's being perpetrated by white defendants. So I think it's a broad stroke to take that reach and say every police officer who was killed is now a result of the Black Lives Matter movement. I don't think it's the way to approach things.
Right. The sheriff was on CNN with Don Lemon on Sunday night as well, talking about the officers who were gunned down in Baton Rouge. It was a little bit testy and dicey, really from the start. I want to listen together with you here.
I spoke to the heads of the sheriff department, the police department, and the state police down there, and they told us how their hearts were reeling. Their message is peace and coming together in the country. What's your message?
You don't believe that for 1 minute, do you?
That their message is?
Yeah.
That's what they said to me.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe them.
Any protests over the deaths of these cops today in Baton Rouge?
I don't know that. I don't know that.
Any riots or protests over the police officers in Dallas, Texas?
What are you asking?
It's a pretty simple question.
I asked you what's your message to the people. Their message is one of peace. What is your message?
My message has been clear from day one 2 years ago. This anti-cop sentiment from this hateful ideology called Black Lives Matter has fueled this rage against the American police officer. I predicted this 2 years ago.
Matthew, what do you make of the exchange?
Well, it's a lot of passion on both sides of the aisle, but I don't know about any prediction. We can't predict that because people feel a certain kind of way about their characterization of treatment by police that it's going to lead to more police violence. We have always been targets, and we've always understood that. When we put that badge and gun on, we are targets to some, but not targets to all.
Cheryl, do you see any way that the Black Lives Matter movement and police forces across the nation can come to some sort of an understanding and support each other?
Well, I think there has to be honest dialogue about what's going on. Listen, let's take Micah Johnson at his word when he said he was not affiliated with any group when he did that thing that he did in Dallas, Texas, as awful as it was. He had no affiliation with Black Lives Matter by his own admission. So let's stop pointing fingers. Let's admit that there's a problem, and then let's talk about fixing it. And fixing it starts with accountability for those few officers who are violating law and our policy and resulting in the death of unarmed men and women in the minority communities.
Matthew Horace and Sergeant Cheryl Dorsey, appreciate your voices in this. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Absolutely.